Hello there, I'm Jimmy Vegas. This is how to create a 3D endless runner in Unity, and welcome to episode 6. In this tutorial, we are going to bring in some assets into our game so we can actually create something that looks a little more pleasing to the eye rather than just a bunch of cubes. Don't forget, click subscribe button and click on the bell icon as well to stay up to date with every tutorial still to come this series and everything else on game development on my channel. And if you've enjoyed this series so far, please feel free to check me out on Patreon or YouTube memberships. We'll earn things like early access, exclusive content, project files, and so much more. With that in mind, let's get to work. So, I think I mentioned very early on in this series about if you are using probably version 2020 or above, you will not really have access to the asset store through the engine itself. So it even says right there from 2020.1 onwards, you can import through the package manager. So firstly, we need to establish where we can get assets from. So yes, it mentions the package manager there, but we need to actually take a look at the asset store itself first. So if we head to the asset store, so basically assetstore.unity.com, even if you go to unity.com, you can still get to the asset store that way, or you can Google asset store. Sign yourself up. It is free, as always. Everything we do on this channel is free. And we want to look for some assets. So once you're on, you've got your account, you're here on the asset store page, you can look for any type of assets you want. If you want to pay for assets, you absolutely can. It's entirely up to you if you want to or not. This channel is free, so everything we do is going to be free. And you can see I have a couple of different search terms here, but we want to go low poly environment pack and hit return, and it will search. Now it'll bring up a few different things, but you can filter down here. So let's go on free assets. And I must admit, there are some great assets on the asset store, free and paid. It probably is worth just taking a look at a lot of these assets and see if you think they can fit into whatever you're creating. Now, as I always say, you don't have to use the same assets I do. I just show you the mechanics and how everything works. You can choose a completely different asset pack than what I'm picking. Take a look through, see what you like, see what kind of environment you want to go for. I've gone with this one simply because this is a bit of an advanced version of what I have. And we can basically see this is all the info that we have here. And you'll see at the top, you can either add to assets or open in Unity. And when you click that button, it will be assigned to your account. And if we click open in Unity, it will then bring it straight over to Unity into your package manager. Remember, the asset store tab mentioned it earlier. Now, I will cover the package manager a little more in just a moment, but the main thing we want to note here is that we are indeed on the low poly environment pack, and we do press import. Now, I haven't done this so far, so this is the first time me doing it in this project. So we just click import, and it will take just a couple of seconds to bring it over. Obviously, the larger a package is, the longer it will take to import. The smaller it is, the better, really. So the package manager can be a little bit confusing. A lot of people don't understand where a lot of their assets can go sometimes. And to be honest, if you click here where it says packages and my assets, you can change that. So it's just a handy little tip to know. Anyway, we've imported our assets, so let's go back to our scene. In fact, let's close the package manager. Let's go back to the tab, right click and close tab. So our scene. We have this right here, and if we go into FBX, we can see all of these bits right here. And all of these we can use to our advantage in our game. So we can create a desert environment, we can create a grassy environment, a foresty environment. Because we're going for a desert kind of look right now, I'm going to use this terrain here as a base. Now, although you do get a demo scene with this, well, 3 demo scenes it would seem, I always try to avoid using demo scenes to actually build my game in. Demo scenes are always good to see what the asset could be if you built it yourself. Anyway, let's pan over here and let's bring this asset in. So I'm going to drag and drop this asset into the scene, and you can see already it's quite huge. So I am going to basically align it to where I want it to be. So I'm going to have it roughly about there. And I think I'm actually going to thin it out just a little bit. So let's have the scale on the Y as 0.3. And maybe just bring it up a touch. There we go. And now I'm going to hold Control and press D. And that will duplicate that object. So I'm going to rotate that on the Y by 180. It'll make an inverted version of it, which I can align over this way. So if we go to the game view, you can see it's not quite aligned, but it's just a bit. There we go. That should do it. Okay, so looking at it now, I'm thinking maybe I could do with just setting it back to 1. Let's see how it looks if we have it as 1 by 1. Okay, I think that might look okay. So Timmy is running through the little hills of sand. So this section of the tutorial comes down to game design, how you want your game to look. So mine's not going to be absolutely perfect because I'm kind of rushing through this to get to different sections. But what I would recommend is you take the time now to kind of work with all of this and make it look at least somewhat presentable. Like I say, maybe changing the height a little bit could have a positive effect one way or the other. But what I am going to do is I'm going to bring out different levels of this now. So I'm going to take this asset, hold Control, press D, and I'm going to change the scale on the Y to 3. So it's quite tall. And I'm going to bring it to there. Do the same with this one. So let's duplicate and change it to 3 and bring it to about there. And this terrain one I'm going to bring to there. And then all 3 of them, sorry, all 4, I'm going to hold Control, press D, duplicate, and just bring it to about there. And once again, to about there. Now at this point, you can see how quickly we've managed to create that environment. So if I press play, you can see our environment really is starting to take shape now. Yes, there's a couple little niggly bits here and there, but we can sort them out later on in development. We've got our basic environment going. So the original section that we have under here, this line here, I'm going to use this as a bit of a base later on. So essentially what we're going to do is I'm going to remove the second one of this and then expand the original one to 50. So we're going to do a game basically in chunks of 50. Now it may seem unimportant right now, but believe me, later on this size will matter quite a lot. So let's just make sure that that looks okay. Yep, that's fine. And now I'm going to move these 4 so they fit in line with this one. Like I say, it may seem irrelevant at the moment, but later on, having it all aligned will be better. So let's add a couple of objects here to make these look a bit more relevant. So we said this one was going to be a big rock, didn't we? So let's drag and drop this into there. And let's shrink the rock a little bit. So let's have that as 0.75, 0.75, 0.75. And again, I'm rushing things. You should take a little bit more time with what you're doing. Now you can rotate it. Get it looking exactly how you want it. And then let's turn off Mesh Renderer. Cool. And let's do the same with this one for a tree. Let's have this one. Oh gosh, that looks a little large. So let's uncouple that. Let's set it to 1 by 1 by 1. And then we can shrink this down to the size we need. So 0.3, 0.3, 0.3. And bring that to about there. Let's increase it. 0.4, 0.4, 0.4. Okay, so that's a rough area of where it should be. which is it's good. It's good enough for me, but it's not good enough for you. You should take the time more than I do. So let's couple that into tree and turn off the mesh renderer. And this one we said was, did I say it was a little rock? Let's add the rock to that. And let's uncouple that and then adjust the rock size. So let's have this as 0.4, 0.4, 0.4. Too small. 0.6, 0.6, 0.6. I think I'm going to increase that to 1 on the height. Maybe 2 actually. That's too much. I'm taking way too much time here. So this is the next section. Here, I think this is too small. So let's increase the size. So let's increase to there. And let's bring it out the ground a little bit to about there. And then couple that rock onto there and turn off the mesh renderer. So we're starting to get this looking fairly decent now. It's all coming together. One more object I'm going to put in that we haven't accounted for just yet is going to be, let's put a log in across here. So let's go game object, 3D object, cube. And I'm going to bring the cube up here. Increase the length on the X to 20 is probably too big. What about 10? Yeah, 10 should be fine. About there. And then let's drag and drop this log onto that cube. And let's rename the cube and call it log 01. And you can see just how fast this is becoming now, creating this world. So it looks like we need to rotate this. So let's rotate by 90 degrees and let's increase this to 6 by 6 by 6. Still not good enough. Maybe 10 by 10 by 10. Again, it's good enough for me, but it's probably not good enough for you. So work with what you have. Take the time to make it look a little better than what I am doing. So I'm going to couple log onto there and then turn off the mesh renderer. So if we press play now, we actually have an environment to run in, and it's as being as simple as 10 minutes. And yes, I know he still runs through things, but essentially this is how we're creating that environment, and it's starting to look really, really good. So the last thing we're going to do is we are going to couple all of these together in one single object, and it will probably become more apparent in the next tutorial, but for now we just need to create a new game object. And I'm going to set this inside the sand floor and then 0 out that position for the game object. So 0, 0, 0. And uncouple once again. And I'm going to call this just section. Now, the way we're going to infinitely generate this, it is important what we call this. So I am going to call it section just for now. This is going to be the first of however many we need. But for now, this is all we need. So let's add everything we've just created, apart from the player, into section. So if we were to turn off section, we wouldn't see anything. If we were to duplicate section and move it along, we have another section. So yes, I know it's identical, but you should now be able to see that we are creating something that resembles an endless runner. So next tutorial, we are going to do that infinite generation. So we are quickly going to create another couple of versions of these just so we can see, but we're basically going to generate it infinitely. So until that next tutorial, let me stop him. Thanks for watching, guys.